Dear partners, dear colleagues, dear friends, I am so excited to welcome you today to a very special virtual network event. A virtual network event which is very close to my heart, scaling up women in green business. We had already received overwhelming reactions to our event in the run-up. We had 8,000 views on LinkedIn and many, many comments. And one in particular caught my eye. It was a post from Dr. Siham Bentuati, Managing Director at NAFAS International from Oman, who is also to our great delight with us today. And let me quote, "Scaling up, women, green, business, all are terms that are very close to my heart." Yes, and so to ours. So what a pleasure and honor indeed to have you all with us today. Proudly, we are partnering with the technical assistance facilities of the Green for Growth Fund in this important virtual event. So a massive thank you to our wonderful partners and friends at the GGF TUF and Finance in Motion. And here in particular to Elvira Lefting, Carlos Marin de la Fuente, Mariam Gunyava, and Holmati Holik for this outstanding cooperation. This virtual network event has been implemented with the financial support from the European Union under the EU for Energy initiative. So another huge thank you goes out to the European Union for making this event possible. Another massive thank you goes to our long-standing partners at GIZ. And here in particular to Dr. Alexander Soliga, Country Director of GIZ Egypt, who has been supporting us so aptly. As you can see, one hand does not clap. Together as partners, we are so happy to see that our GAWBL platform, which we founded to connect, to empower, and to engage with women across Germany, the Arab region, and the international community, is constantly growing. And it makes me really happy to see so many familiar faces today. Yes, we are becoming more and more. And that is even more important these days. As more than ever, we need to join forces. We need to join forces for a greener future, for a more just and peaceful and inclusive world. And it is only together that we can achieve this goal. It is only together that we can close the eco-gender gap. So today, we want to kick off our GAWBLconnect dialogue around the vital role of women in green business, around how to turn climate change challenges into economic opportunities for women. We want to look at this from many different perspectives to promote a much needed holistic approach. And this is why I am all the more excited to welcome now our fantastic moderator and speakers representing all different sectors, allowing this multifaceted perspectives in our discussion. So let's discuss how to really be the agents of change for a green and gender balanced future. And maybe you can hear my verbal drum roll now. Please welcome with me Laila El Haris, Managing Director at Siemens Energy Egypt, who is joining us from Egypt, representing the corporate sector. Dr. Suzanne Hamdi, Chief Financial Inclusion, Sustainability and Business Development Officer at Banque Misr, also joining us from Egypt, representing the world of finance. Rebecca Kühl, Gender Mainstream Advisor at GIZ, also in Egypt. We have a strong Egypt group today, and you will be covering the aspect of international cooperation. You are Gender Mainstream Advisor at GIZ. And Mona Alami Merouni, co-founder Fertidev and CEO of Ecofertil, joining us from Morocco. You will shed the light on the topic from an entrepreneurial perspective in green business. And you, my dear audience, will discover that all these high caliber ladies do share one thing. Other than being agents of change for a greener and more inclusive world, they all have so many firsts. First in, first at, but more on this later. As we agreed beforehand that our wonderful moderator, Anouk Kreuzen, will introduce our speakers in more detail in a moment. But before we do so, please allow me now to give the floor to Lisa Marie Andersen, manager at Green Finance Center, representing our long-standing partner and supporter at Finance in Motion. Please, Lisa Marie.
Thank you, Gabi. And welcome also from my side. And we're honored to support this event, bringing together experts and women entrepreneurs who are innovating on the front lines, that are playing the undebatable role of women in the green economy and are showcasing how we can work together to ensure climate justice for all. I speak as a manager of the Green Finance Center at Finance in Motion, a company which has deployed over $6 billion in impactful investments that have sustainability at their core. Finance in Motion's funds and its technical assistance facilities have achieved impact across a range of different sectors in emerging markets, including sustainable agriculture and forestry, entrepreneurship and job creation, energy and resource efficient practices, and renewable energy at residential, company, and utility scale. And one of our advised funds is the Green for Growth Fund, which is focused on climate change mitigation projects, and its technical assistance facility, which is sponsoring this event. Via the TA facility, the event is being supported by the European Commission under the EU for Energy initiative, as you've said, which covers EU support to improve energy supply, security, and connectivity, and promotes energy efficiency and the use of renewables in EU partner countries, which is becoming more and more pertinent today. And we acknowledge that women may face and do face different structural barriers in operating contexts, and that climate change just amplifies these existing gender inequalities. But yet, only a fraction of targeted climate funding is directed to initiatives that integrate women and their empowerment very holistically. So there's a lot more to be done to actively address these barriers through advocacy and partnerships and technical assistance. So this is where exchanges like this are important, as more needs to be done, strengthen capacity, voice, networks of female-led companies and associations, supporting all market actors to integrate gender considerations in their activities, and developing targeted products and ensuring that activities intentionally target and address gender disparities. So with that, I hand back over, look forward to hearing from our esteemed experts and moderator, and thank everyone for joining us today.
Thank you so much, dear Lisa Marie, for the warm words and also for your kind support in having set up this, as you said, very important network event. Thank you so much. Well, and now it is my deep honor and great pleasure to introduce to you our wonderful moderator of today's session, Anouk Kreuzen. Anouk, you are trained as a geoscientist and have more than 15 years experience in the international oil and gas industry, working in the Middle East, in Brazil, and the Netherlands. You have always played a very active role in promoting gender equity and economic independence, and have pursued this in all of your many, many different roles. And all of these roles leading to the foundation of 75 INQ, where you currently hold the position of executive director. The 75 INQ Foundation works to accelerate the transition to sustainable energy by promoting gender equality in line with the CDG goals developed by the United Nations. And 75 INQ specifically focuses on the convergence of two of these goals, which I think is very important, namely SDG 7 and SDG 5, the crossroads of a transition to sustainable and affordable energy and gender equality. As you put it so aptly, these goals converge from the boardroom to the living room, right? As you have put it so aptly. You have been, other than this, founded, led several women's networks in the industry and outside. And just recently, you have been initiating and moderating the important event, Women Leading the Energy Transition at the Erasmus University in Rotterdam. To be honest, Anouk, given this utmost impressive range with such a, let's say, highly diverse and profound expertise, not only in the corporate sector, and being such a powerful advocate for closing the eco-gender gap, I couldn't think of a better moderator than you. So again, a very warm welcome to all of you. Wonderful to have you with us and looking into this virtual round of concentrated green women power. I'm all the more looking forward to an insightful, inspiring, and hopefully engaging virtual network. So Anouk, the floor is yours.
Thank you for the introduction, Gabi. I'm humbled. And thank you all for joining today. I'm very honored to moderate this panel today because generally I'm very excited to be around inspiring people, but how often are you surrounded by so many green entrepreneurial female leaders? The aspiration and the inspiration is huge in this session today. And wherever I've worked, Gabi introduced me quickly, I've lived in my professional career in the Middle East and Brazil, and in Europe, women are unfortunately still in the majority. So I think, thank you for joining today, and I'm really looking forward to make real and long-lasting connections. So please make sure that you leave this session today with at least one new friend. So if you have one job to do today, let it be that one new friend at the end of this session. Because we're not only here to have fun, there is work to be done. There is a serious urgency for women, for scaling up women in green business. At this time, and we are coping with a climate emergency that simply doesn't allow us to leave the solution to half of our population. We need all hands on deck, and it's almost as simple as that, if it only was, right? Before I'm going to give the floor to these amazing panelists that were just briefly introduced, I'd like to share 3 short slides just to emphasize the real need for scaling up. I cannot see the slide yet. Yeah. The first slide, the first image I'd like to share, and I think that's the next slide, yes, is a picture from the IPCC report, the climate panel report of 2019. There is a newer picture, but it's not as nice as this one. So I'm sharing this one today. And this picture makes the link between limiting global warming and the 17 Sustainable Development Goals set out by the United Nations. These 17 goals, these colorful blocks down below, these are developed as the guide towards a sustainable planet. And what this image very clearly and very strongly illustrates is that basically, if we don't get on with all 17 goals, we will surely heat up the planet. You can see that in the thermometer on the right side. If we pick and choose, and these are the half gray blocks in the middle, we are still on our way to heat up the planet. Only if we are serious about achieving all 17 goals, we have a chance to build green economies and limit global warming for future generations to thrive. Now, the next slide picks out one of these goals. That's goal 5. Can you move please to the next slide, Gabi? Yes.
It always takes a little while.
It takes a little
when
time.
You can see it. But I hope it's here. Okay.
So let's go. One of these goals is SDG number 5. And this is one of the 17 main targets. And as we do in project planning, because of course also the SDGs are in a way project planning, right? This goal has a few sub-goals, and these are the goals that I'd like to share with you because they're very relevant for our session today. Goal 5.5 is ensure full participation in leadership and decision-making. not just in some places and not just at some tables, but globally, everywhere. Goal 5A is about equal rights to economic resources, property ownerships, and financial services. So that's also very highlighted today for this goal as well, not just somewhere, but globally, everywhere, for everyone. So now it's crystal clear from a global and an environmental perspective that we do need to scale up women in Greece business. But how are we doing? Let's move to the next slide and I'll patiently wait for it. I'm going to show you a graph from the World Bank. And it's not a very pretty graph, but it has some lines and you see them slowly going upwards, which is good news. These lines, they represent Germany, Morocco, and Egypt from a World Bank report that is called Women, Business, and the Law. It's a publication that the World Bank issues on a yearly basis. And what you see here is the lowest line is Egypt, the middle line is Morocco, and the top two lines are Germany and the Netherlands. I just happen to be in the Netherlands, that's why we put it on. You see that there is a absolute improvement over the past decades on how women perform on business and the law. However, you can also see that there is a lot of work to be done because 2030 is only 7 years away. And this is the time that we were set out to achieve these SDGs. So, work to be done. So we're basically backed up by the United Nations sitting in this session. I'm going to introduce the panel. Today we host 4 distinguished female speakers. They're all experts and tremendous inspirational role models who we need, right? You cannot be who you cannot see. Laila Alares is the managing director of Siemens Energy in Egypt, where she leads the company operations. Dr. Susan Hamdi is the Chief Financial Inclusion, Sustainability and Business Development Officer of Bank Misr in Egypt, and she is supervising the sustainability development operations. Rebecca Kool is the gender mainstream advisor of GIZ in Egypt, and she's steering GIZ Egypt's gender group as a gender focal point on the country level. Mona Alami Marouni is the CEO of Kratochwil, and she's also the co-founder of Fertidev in Morocco. And she is a green tech entrepreneur in the field of organic waste management and compost production in Morocco. I'm going to give the floor to these amazing ladies, but before we start there, I'm going to share a few basic housekeeping rules. Because of the bandwidth, let's switch off our cameras and audio during the presentations. If you can, in that little box in your screen, type in your full name and maybe the company that you work if you want it to be public, then we can reach each other more easily and also find each other back afterwards. If you have any questions, please leave them in the chat during the presentations. We'll collect them and we'll make sure you get an answer. Now, the workshops are not being recorded. The panel discussions are. So being recorded means that we're going to record it and share it on YouTube afterwards. So this will be public. The workshops after the panel, after the presentations, however, will not be recorded. So this is a very safe and very closed space for everybody to speak up. Thank you. I'm going to give the floor to our first speaker, Laila Alares. And I think you're going to share your slides yourself, right? Yes, correct.
Correct. I hope you can hear me. So, thank you, Dr. Gabi and Anouk, for this nice introduction. It's a pleasure to be here and participate in this debate. Let me spend a few minutes introducing my company, Siemens Energy, first. Then I want to talk briefly about why we are here today and how the energy transition and energy revolution can provide an excellent platform for gender equality and balance. So, can we go to slide 2? So I am proud to belong to Siemens Energy. Our company, my company, is only 2 years old. It has spun off in 2019 from Siemens company. Our purpose is to energize society, literally. Next slide, please. We are a global leader in the energy field. Just to give you an idea, around 1/6 of the world's global electricity is generated based on our technology. And over 50% of our portfolio is based on relevant decarbonization technology. Now we have representation over 90 countries over the world and have around 90,000 employees. So we are building an integrated energy technology company. We are doing that through low or zero emission power generation, transport, and storage of energy, reducing carbon footprint and energy consumption in industrial processes. Hope this gives you a brief idea on who we are. I will now skip the last 2 slides and let me share some reflections on how the energy transition and energy revolution can provide an excellent platform for gender equality and balance from my perspective. Clean energy access has been linked to better chances for girls to complete primary education and for women to earn better wages. And while it is not necessarily our topic today, it is also contributes to a reduction in gender-based violence. That simply means that expanding electricity access using sustainable off-grid technology presents additional opportunities to enhance women's economic power by developing the nascent industry in a gender-inclusive way. When women are included in sustainable development planning processes, not only do they bring a unique perspective as a primary resource managers in their communities, but they also are more likely to take part in the solutions. There are, of course, many challenges and some obstacles to overcome, and I'm sure we will touch base on those during the Q&A sessions. But those are like gender stereotypes, or many people think that women leave STEM academic careers because they cannot balance work and family responsibilities. There is a lack of role models in the industry, lack of opportunities or career pathways, lack of education opportunities, or simply an inequality maybe driven by national energy policies or labor market patterns. I believe all these can be overcome. Indeed, in many countries and in companies, Siemens Energy, to mention one, we are on that journey, and I'm optimistic about the future. That said, I know there's a lot to do, and that is why forums like these are very important.
Thank you, Laila. Thank you for sharing. If you have any questions, we'll have a lot of room later on in the session to ask them directly. You can also leave them in the chat. I'd like to move on to Dr. Susan Handy, if you like.
Mariam, may I ask you to close the screen, please, so that I can open Dr. Suzanne's presentation? Perfect. Here we go. Just a second. So this always takes a while. Can you now all see the presentation of Dr. Suzanne? Perfect. So then, Dr. Suzanne, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm very pleased for Dr. Gabi to give me this opportunity to join this panel, which is hosted by the German Arab Women Business Leaders, which is chaired by Dr. Gabi, and in cooperation with the GGF and all respectable organizations. And to be among such distinguished ladies and honorable audience, I'm sure we will be exchanging a lot of ideas and discussing a lot of issues regarding women in green business and how to scale them up. Climate change is of the defining challenges of the 21st century, and climate scientists, as we've read, say probably we will lose 1/3 of the world's population by the end of the century based on climate trajectories of climate change. Africa despite its low contribution to greenhouse gas emissions, remains the most vulnerable continent. And reasons for Africa's vulnerability are diverse and include low levels of adaptive capacity, poor diffusion of technologies, and information relevant to supporting adaptation, and high dependence on agro-ecosystems for livelihoods. And zooming in on Egypt with the desert and the delta, low rainfall, hot summers, huge cities and population, a long coastline, and one main river with 95% of the water budget is generated outside its territory, and on which all economic activities are depending on, is highly vulnerable to climate change, upon which uncertainties of water availability and high sea level increase are dramatic. So Egypt needs to be ready and prepare for such new norm. The reason why Egypt has finalized recently its national climate change strategy to support, which is 2050, to support its 2030 SDG development agenda, and is also preparing to host the COP27 in November this year. So advancing gender equality in the context of the climate crisis is one of the greatest global challenges. And women, as we said, and as Dr. Gabi said, women are agents of change in driving the climate agenda forward. They are at the forefront of the climate decision-making in their homes through recycling used cooking oil, for example, crop production and reducing food waste, especially in developing countries. And financial institutions should empower these vulnerable populations with low income and micro, small and medium enterprises in developing economies to build resilience and mitigate the impact of climate change by integrating green finance goals into financial inclusion. And at the heart of financial inclusion, to help adaptation to climate change, are the digital financial services such as mobile money, credit, microinsurance that can help these women and customers in general to build climate resilience. Therefore, the lack of financial inclusion in general for women is mirrored by the lack of access to climate and green finance. And Egypt realizes this and emphasizes gender-responsive action coming within the framework of the efforts exerted towards achieving economic empowerment. Egypt has been pushing for financial inclusion with great focus on women, and these efforts were done alongside the government, the CBE, regulatory reforms, and strengthening the supervisory role, raising initiatives on financial inclusion, especially for women, SMEs initiatives, and promoting the use of fintech. Can we just go back to the slide with the numbers? So the previous slide, please.
Can you now see it?
Yeah, thank you.
Perfect.
So the CBE released its financial inclusion data for 2021, and thanks to the efforts that I've said, Egypt saw a significant growth rate of 115% in financial inclusion, from about 33%, which is about 2/3 of the population being unbanked in 2017, and bringing such percentage of financial inclusion to 56.2% in 2021. So this is a 115% increase. However, in terms of women's financial inclusion, the CBE indicators showed a growing trend in the number of females who own a transactional account, which is about recording 16 million women by the end of 2021, with a growth rate of 171% compared to 2017. However, if we look at the increase or the growth rate of the financial inclusion of males versus females, we will see that the percentage of men that were included increased from 39% to 64%. But the financial inclusion of women increased only, increased from 27% to 49%, which means that the gap was 12% in 2017, but became 15% in 2021, which means that men in Egypt are gaining more benefit from the financial inclusion or the inclusion in general than women. BM is a strong supporter of women empowerment and has several initiatives for availing finance and building an enabling ecosystem for women at all levels and subsegments, from micro, small, medium women-led enterprises. And climate change is not only about managing risks, but also about capturing new opportunities. And that's why Bank Misr is engaged and moving towards greener and more resilient development path. Bank Misr, just to give just a glance, Bank Misr is a state-owned bank, is the second largest bank with a market share of around 20% of assets, loans, and deposits in Egypt. It's the first Egyptian bank in the 20th century to be wholly owned by Egyptians. It serves a client base of more than 10 million clients in Egypt. It has a very strong geographical spread with a network of 750 branches and 4,300 ATMs and 330 POS. BM also, on the investment side, it owns stakes in 160 companies across all industries and has acquired the second largest investment firm in Egypt. So therefore, it's really very impactful when it comes to financial inclusion and financing in general. Bank Misr is embedding the sustainability in its DNA currently by joining the Principles for Responsible Banking, by abiding by the GRI initiatives and by reporting and disclosures. We have a lot of initiatives on women's side. We have last March in cooperation with IFC, we have launched a new program that is dedicated to financing only women on the micro and small and medium size and for entrepreneurs, with access to finance, mentorship, and the advice. And I will talk in the workshop more about this package. We do not work alone. There are a lot of other initiatives that I'll also talk about in the workshop with the National Council of Women, with the Ministry of Planning, with the with the WFO, with the ILO, and a lot of other business women, business organizations and microfinance institutions. So women, when given the opportunity, they step up, they do what needs to be done, even if it's difficult. They accelerate, they drive change. So in conclusion, there is no doubt that women and girls are effective change makers for adaptation and mitigation. So linking climate change and gender equality and having a strategy of a combination of green growth and inclusive growth are key priorities to any development model towards sustainable development. And thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you for that beautiful message, Dr. Sudan Hamdi. And as you announced, more to come in the workshops after the introductions. I'd like to give the floor to Rebecca Cool.
Thank you so much. I guess, Gabi, you are wonderful. You're sharing the slide deck. So thank you for the kind introduction, Gabi and Anouk. I'm very happy to be here today with all of you, and hello also into the audience. I will try to stay in time with this presentation, which is proven to be a challenge because there's a lot to say. But luckily, the foundation and the context and urgency has been given in the introduction and actually also in the previous presentations. So let's directly jump into my first slide, where I first want to give you a bit of context of GIZ Egypt, and then in the following, I think more interestingly, give you concrete examples of our work in the field at the intersection of gender and sustainability in green businesses. So GIZ is a German organization working in the field of international cooperation for Sustainable Development. GIZ provides technical expertise, develops capacities, and delivers effective solutions in close partnership with local governmental and non-governmental organizations. And in Egypt, we're supporting Egypt in its efforts to achieve the Sustainable Development Strategy, Egypt's Vision 2030, to create better social and economic prospects for the Egyptian people, and interestingly, in Egypt operating since 1956. GIZ currently implements more than 20 projects in the following areas of cooperation. If you kindly give me the next slide, you will see a graphic overview. So we're active in economic development, in TVET and private sector development, the energy and water sector, urban development, and also governance. And as we know, women face several barriers that might limit their full access to green jobs in the coming years. Some are sector specific, such as social norms that deem certain sectors inappropriate for women, but other barriers also hold true for all sectors. And these include access to land, access to finance, access to technology, and also structural inequalities as the burden of unpaid care work. And we as GIZ look at these different sectors individually to identify challenges for women in the sectors and be also addressing them correctly, let's say. And I want to highlight two different sectors now in my short presentation. First of all, the agricultural sector, and then also what we do or will be doing in private sector development. So for women in green business in agriculture, agribusiness, agriculture is the second biggest source of climate damaging gases after energy. It also accounts for 70% of the worldwide water consumption, but also at the same time, it's the biggest source of employment worldwide. And it's by far the largest economic sector in developing countries. And that's also the case in Egypt. It's a very important sector. So GIZ Egypt offers to scale women and support women empowerment in the agri-value chain and in the agri-businesses. And we have different programs here and had different programs implemented. You see a few, let's say, buzzwords on my slide here. We have an incubation program that is targeting both genders, actually called THEMAR. It's an incubation acceleration program in training in recycling and waste management in agriculture, implemented in Upper Egypt, in Minya, to be more precise. And it's currently running. There's 30 incubatees in the final stage, starting out with 120 in this boot camp. And I'm very happy to say that actually 70% of the incubatees are in fact women, even though it's gender neutral. Let's say it's open to both genders. Then, for example, a nice activity is also the aquaponics, hydroponics, and aquaculture education. So in this activity, we were training women in Bahreya and Kafr Sheikh to design and implement field initiatives that are focusing on water use efficiency in irrigated agriculture, as well as innovative methods of managing solid agricultural waste. And the introduction of these aquaponics and hydroponics, and I mean, maybe these words don't mean anything to you, to give a bit of context, that's techniques for soilless agriculture, or also combination of food production, vegetable production, integrating also fish. And we're basically teaching the women how to install and use these units. And if you give me the next slide, you'll also see a few pictures from the field that were taken by the colleagues in these communities. Yeah, it was a huge success and very accepted also by the men in the communities where these, let's say, techniques have been introduced. So women were able to install and use these units as part of their households, which is also solving another issue, which sometimes is mobility. So women didn't, let's say, have to leave their premises to be actually starting to use those. And improved irrigation strategies and saving water not only makes women more economically stable, so it's not only good for the environment, it's also good for the women. And improved recycling and waste management obviously also directly contributes to the environmental protection in Egypt. And then before I come to an end, if you give me the last slide in the private sector development field, there's obviously a need to frame and highlight the economic incentives and business cases for the private sector to be investing into action against climate change. So enterprises need to become aware that resource efficiency, low greenhouse gas energy sources, and climate smart products and services actually are opening new markets for them and are increasing their resilience. And this is exactly what we're trying to do with an upcoming activity called Fit for Future Businesswomen Training. It's a program created aiming at supporting women's skills and resilience. It's going to be an in-person training in Egypt for 20 female entrepreneurs and female business owners to strengthen and increase the entrepreneurial skills and knowledge, while we want to ensure that their businesses are prepared to scale up. And the core areas of the support program, besides digitalization and financial literacy and education, will be the awareness raising that action against climate change is actually a business case, and that studies show us that green production will be more important to the consumer of the future, and action against climate change therefore is just business smart. So we want to really equip female business owners for the future with this one. And I think I leave it at this. I have a lot more examples, and I'm very happy to be sharing them in our upcoming session.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. There's so much going on, and it's so inspiring that I think we could fill an afternoon with each and every single one of you. But for the sake of time, I'm going to give the floor to Mona Alami Marouni. And the next slide, please. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Anouk, and hello, everyone. My presentation is going to be a little bit different. As a business owner, I decided to talk to you about me as a woman entrepreneur. So I'm going to first start talking about my journey, my professional journey, but also my personal values, and finish up with the what's the mission of my business. So I'm the CEO and founder I'm the CEO of EcoVertil and founder of Fertidev. I've got 8 years experience in a global FMCG as in charge of their sustainability and employee engagement agenda. I also have an MBA in entrepreneurship from Babson College in Boston. I'm the board member of different NGOs in Morocco around organic farming, but also a country representative of the African Circular Economy Network in Morocco. I'm also a mother of 2 beautiful kids, as you can see on the picture. Okay, so for the little story, my parents have launched the first Moroccan composting company in Morocco in the 90s. They got the support from Canadian and Swedish experts. And in 2014, they got access to a new state land in Casablanca in Morocco, but unfortunately it took them some time and it caused some administrative issues, which caused the company to be on standby for a couple of years. In 2019, I decided to take the challenge to take over the company I grew up with. So I decided to renew the visual identity, the website, got organic certifications, participate in different international fairs to communicate on the fact that there was a new management. And in 2020, I saw that the composting field was pretty basic. That's what pushed me to launch a startup that will bring more the innovation to the composting value chain. And my ambition is by 2025 is to build strategic partnerships with different cities to access green waste that's today unfortunately sent to the landfill, to invest in R&D through a lab and an incubator of biotech projects. I'm also planning to diversify the product portfolio and not stay only on compost, and launch a pedagogical farm for trials and trainings on the usage of compost on different soils and plants. If we can move to the next slide. I also wanted to talk to you about me as an entrepreneur and as a person. And I thought that the tree of life is a good symbol of someone's individuality and personal development. And so my beliefs is that, first of all, is that everyone is unique and deserves respect, talking about gender and equal rights. I also truly believe that kindness and caring for others is very, very fulfilling. And that's, I think, very common amongst women, but it's also important to take care of oneself. to be able to move on and inspire, which is not something always easy when you're a mompreneur, I must admit. I also believe that in the law of attraction, and that's what we think we become. So work on our own thoughts is something that's important, and it's good to have dreams, but it's better to start working towards these dreams while believing in our own intuition, because when as a business leader, sometimes you have some values and they're not what you live in your everyday life is not always aligned with your own values. So intuition is something that's very important to keep in mind. There is also this quote that I think is famous. Everyone knows it, but it makes a lot of sense to me, that we're the change we want to see in the world. We talk about SDGs, we talk about climate change. We all have a part, something to play, and no one is too small to start doing his own part. I also believe that on the personal side, that friendships need to be authentic, and that family is a priority. So it's good to have a mission in life, but not to forget the social aspects of your life. And I'm sure that, and one aspect that's also dear to my heart is alternative education, that needs to be today focused on the child, but also focused on how humans are part of nature, that we tend to forget. So today we try to change a world that is already, that already suffers, but I think our kids today are going to be the change for tomorrow's world. So we need to invest in our kids, but also to stay grounded. I just want to come back to the last slide, because it's going to be a last quote, which is a transition towards this slide, is that there is a movement today about saving soils, because we talk about climate change, we talk about water scarcity, but we don't often talk about the importance of soils. And our mission at EcoFertile is to work towards regenerating and saving soils. So there is this Roosevelt quote that says there can be no life without soil, and no soil without life, and the nation that destroys its soil also destroys itself. And so if we go back to the slides at EcoFertile, I put an example for Morocco. Globally, the issue is that today we lose organic matter and content in soils, and that turns soils into sand. And there is a simple way of increasing organic matter content. If we can move on, Gabi, to the next slide. I don't know. Yeah, so basically in Morocco, globally, we recommend to have at least between 3 and 6% of organic content in soils. If we take the example of Morocco, we are at 1.3% average rate, and with an annual loss of 1.9 to 3.3%. And at the same time, if we can go back, at the same time, we throw organic waste to landfills. In Morocco, in Casablanca, for instance, 2,500 tons per day go to the landfill, of which 60% is made of organic matter that we can transform. So basically at EcoFertile, we create value through transformation of this organic waste through the simple way of composting. And we have this specific, we do have a process where we measure different factors, and we analyze different contents to make sure the compost is respecting national and international norms. And then we sell that compost to landscape designers and farmers that then to enrich the soil and then generate again green waste, which is completely in a vision of circular economy. And so FertiDev comes as the R&D spin-off of GAWBL that brings this innovative aspect into different parts of the value chain. Then move on. Yeah, so just to finish up basically, as I said, it's just through this simple process of just transforming waste into organic matter, we respond to 8 of the 17 SDGs that you mentioned, Anouk. And I hope we can develop this further in the small groups. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mona. Also, thank you for reminding me we're all humans and we have a role to play here. And we have choices to make. I have like 1,000 questions myself, and I'm sure the audience has them as well. So before we move on to the breakout groups where we can actually ask them, I'd like to ask the panel members just one question. If you look at the people in the audience today, or what should each and every one of them get out of this session today to make sure we can all make that necessary next step to scale up women in green business? What would that be if I would ask you, Leila?
Yes, I think, I mean, it's really refreshing to hear such a diverse panel, and thank you again for inviting me to that. It's been really a pleasure to listen to my panelists. So I think I can see so much diversity. I think it's very important that we listen to each other, and this type of conversations can really bring us to the next level. So yeah, I think listening and having the conversation going on is very important. Anouk.
Thank you very much. Embracing the diversity of the people that are actually making it work these days. Dr. Suzanne.
I believe it's a matter of collaboration, and it is not the ownership of only one entity, whether it's the public sector, private sector, civil society, NGOs, even on an individual level through purchasing and being aware of what through your purchasing power, you can also be involved even if you don't have a business. So on all levels, everyone and each one has to know that it concerns him. It's an existential matter, and therefore everyone within the audience or who will be watching this is a part of scaling up of green finance and ensuring that they have an integral part in it.
We're in this together, and we'll have to work together to make it work. Thanks, Dr. Suzanne. Rebecca.
That quite lovely would connect to what Dr. Suzanne just said, actually, the collective effort. And I want to state that also GIZ in Egypt, but GIZ generally, we also are very happy in cooperating with the private sector. So we're very open to collective effort, let's say. So we're not in our own development community bubble, but very happy reaching out also in cooperation with the private sector, joining forces, let's say. And for the audience, there's a lot of different angles. I think it's hard to answer. There will be different aha moments, let's say, depending on where you're coming from.
Well, let's collect aha moments today then, and also collect friends. So I still challenge you to keep your eyes open and make that connection that's going to help you personally in your next step. Mona, after your beautiful story, what would it be for you to tell the audience to take home today?
Yeah, I think the most important thing, adding up to what has been already stated, is that we need to increase consciousness about our ability to change and our obligation to change today. Like we need to make that step towards change, and that can't happen without collaboration once again. So yeah, so that would be my.
Fantastic, thanks. Now let's start that collaboration in about 10 minutes from now. Is that the right timing? Gabi, I'm looking at Gabi.
It is, and I'm nodding. Now it's time for our workshops. Absolutely. And yes, it will take like 10 minutes. So we have a short break to assign you. Just a short note, those who have not registered in advance for one of those workshops will now be assigned to one of the workshops. What is important, unfortunately, it's not possible to switch between the workshops. So you're going to stick with your workshop. Workshop 1 will be group 1. This will be Green Finance and Women-led Green Enterprises with Dr. Suzanne and Mona. You will be in group number 1. Group number 2, room number 2 will be Corporate and International Cooperation, Creating a Greener Future, together with Laila and Rebecca. And please, to allocate the workshops, we ask you not to now leave the Zoom meeting. Why? Because if you now leave the Zoom meeting, I will not be able to assign you. However, you can switch off the camera, switch off audio if you wish, and perhaps you want to grab a cup of coffee or whatever. But please stay in the meeting, because then I cannot assign you. After the 2 workshops, we will all meet again in the panel for a wrap-up, final discussion, and hopefully some takeaways or golden nuggets. So hello, hi Anouk.
Hey, hello.
Hello.
Hi, Gabi. Oh, this was
Hi.
too short.
I know. So it was the same with us. We just started and it was
Started.
over. I know. May I perhaps, before we start with a wrap up, may I ask you to all switch on your cameras, because I would like to have a photo again with all of us, if you don't mind. Are you ready for a nice group photo? Hi, so many familiar faces. Wonderful. Anouk, why don't you just start? And what did you discuss? What were your takeaways?
We discussed the universe and everything, I think.
So did we.
I think what I bring back from we had a very nice session and we took some time to actually get to know each other. That's something that I heard back during the earlier part of the session, that indeed we're in this together. So that also means that we need to know each other and help each other forward. There are entrepreneurs like Mona. There are people that have the knowledge about the banking sector and the products that are there. And if we don't know, if we don't map it out, nothing's going to happen either, right? So building these networks is important, and we actually took some time. What I also took back is that we know women are capable to basically run the world, right? And still we tend to fall back into patterns and stereotyping, resulting in getting only 3% of the financial access, which is of course a huge difference to men. That is the case, and we need to accelerate proactively, find these women and actually shake them up. And if you don't see them, look harder. Mm-hmm. There was a beautiful example of only men turning up to a financial session. Well, if that happens, that doesn't mean that there are no women, right? If you realize this, then we need to find other means to access these women and give the women access to these products, because nothing against men, but they make a beautiful stories to protect the status quo, of course, because it's extremely convenient. Moving forward, we've been here for a long time. Let's accelerate now. I think that was a huge question in our session. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I hope I reflected the gist of the discussion. Gabi.
Sounds nice. And it sounds as if you have attended our workshop, because it was exactly the same. We've been discussing, also discussing the quota, like it or not, but sometimes we need this push to accelerate things. What we discussed also to get women in decision-making positions. If we don't have women in executive boards, senior positions, then it will be not so easy to prepare the pipelines for future generations to come. We've been discussing the unconscious bias, the gender bias. We've been discussing blind auditions with the New York Symphonic Orchestra, increasing the female percentage in this orchestra. And I was very happy to hear also from Leila. Perhaps Leila, you can explore on that later on. Network is so important, enhancing the community. And you just recently found She Is Energy in Siemens, a wonderful network, which was new to me. And this is definitely one of my takeaways. So this is what we were discussing and making new contacts. And I think this is what we all did so far. From my group, Rebecca, Leila, Azza, Carlos, did I forget something? Anything you wish to add?
No, just a quick thing, Dr. Gabi, just to clarify, She Is Energy is a community that we have built. Through Siemens Energy, is just one member of this community. I'm a co-founder with colleagues within other, within other companies in the energy sector in Egypt.
Yeah, thank you. So, anything you wish to add from the groups? If that's not the case, Anouk, why don't we just do the wrap-up discussion?
Yeah, my group, I tried to summarize, but I'm pretty sure there was more discussed. Is there anything I would like to share? Something more? Let's move back to planner then.
Yes.
Oh, yes, Annemarie.
Yes, of course. I had a concrete question to Suzanne. I just tried to write it in the chat. So, for example, I have a project who is dealing with drinking water, and it is water is distillated from the air. So we had connections in Egypt, but we would like to have this project in collaboration with women. It is a man and his colleagues who developed it. A woman is in the board, but the matter is that it would be a great aspect, and we had some connections with men and it didn't follow. Know that the drinking water is a very important aspect. May I send you an information quite clearly? Can you send me in the chat your email?
I'll send you, definitely. Will be delighted to pursue any collaboration. I'll write my email right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then I wanted to talk to Mona. So I would like to have the connection with Mona due to this to this project that I have near to Essaouira, near to Marrakesh in the child community. And it's operating. So it would be nice if you could watch it when you are in the neighborhood of Marrakesh, to go to visit this village and then to see who we could collaborate to have other projects. I have different projects in Essaouira, but due to the pandemic, I had all to stop them. On different things. So I would like to also, I have your email, and I look it up, and then we can call on Skype or so how to connect concretely. Thank you. Because I have to leave to the Belgian embassy now.
Fantastic. Thank you, Annemarie. This is something that is that men generally do a lot better. So let's learn from it. Just ask what you need, right? And not just wait to be found.
The point is that my grandparents, I'm an entrepreneur since 1860, yeah? Women entrepreneurs, and so I got something in my blood.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. That is extremely valuable. Thank you. Gabi.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I think we covered all so far, and let's just go on with the final discussion, right?
Yes. Should we directly open the questions, or talk to the panel? Ask the panel first. Oh, whatever. I think the questions, because we had so little time for questions, it might be worth spending some time on that. Is there anyone else who has a very pragmatic, maybe, question to the panel? And any personal questions or direct links, please share your details either personally or through the chat or through LinkedIn, so you can catch up afterwards. Make that friend.
Hello.
So would it be possible, the Gabi, will we receive the names of the different people? Would they allow this? Because this would be also very interesting with a little detail of what they are, or if they are with LinkedIn, that could really be very helpful.
So if I have the permission,
sorry to disturb again.
No, it's good. If I have your permission here in the audience, can you just give me your permission? Then of course I can share the details. If perhaps you just raise your hand like this, and if you are all fine with that, perfect. We do it very informal, not bureaucratic, because that's the idea behind, yes. Right? Okay. So Hanan, my dear friend joining us from Lebanon, so great to have you. Another famous lady from Lebanon, grand entrepreneur. Good to have you, Hanan. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Gabi. Indeed, this was quite interesting. And I personally wanted to ask a question. I think Mona would be the person to really address this. I felt that partnering with an organization that has helped you out did make the difference. Do you think that this would be the way forward for you in agriculture, particularly to have, the knowledge transferred to you? Is this key for you if you are going to assess the general outlook of your company?
I'm not sure I actually understood correctly the question. Could you please clarify?
Yeah, what I was trying to say is that you went into this field, okay, and you have obviously made a difference. And as I understood from your presentation was that you have partnered with I don't know if it is a company or I really didn't get it, who really assisted you to make the difference. Is this correct or I'm mistaken?
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think
actually,
go ahead, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, you
go the question. Go ahead with the question so that I can give
yeah, I wanted to assess the fact that what kind of a difference did partnering with such knowledgeable companies made a difference in your company vis-a-vis other companies that are in Morocco too?
So I have different partnerships. I have first of all, I have a professional partnership. So I'm part of NGOs and institutions that work towards the same cause as I do, national ones. And I think the benefits of such partnerships are the network, definitely the network, and opening up doors to different administrations or contacts. So that's on one side. On the other side, I launched a startup. I was part of different incubators, accelerators, national, international ones. And those, what they brought to me is this, there is this, the loneliness of the entrepreneur that we all have heard of. And being in this ecosystem with other entrepreneurs, with experts that are here to support different kind of entrepreneurs, and just to discuss and let out what are our problems and see that we're not the ones in that situation, is very helpful for the mind. So I don't have tangible answers in terms of quantitative answers, but it's mostly qualitative. But I would say network and supports.
Thank you, Mona. Did that answer your question, Hanan?
Well, of course, I mean, I just wanted to realize that bringing in a partnership with a company that is very well versed in a particular field actually makes the difference. Another issue that was brought to my attention, because in Lebanon now we really have a problem with the water. So this is something that we're really suffering from, as well as from the waste. You know, we don't have waste management the way it should be. So I mean, these are main issues that I would like to have some input regarding this. You know, maybe if any one of the ladies participating in this event can guide, because it would really be useful. I mean, I saw a slide where the water was assisting in the growth of the plantation. So these are major problems that we are facing in Lebanon, and I think that this would make a difference, particularly of the in anticipation of the food crisis that everybody is sort of concerned about in light of the war between Russia and Ukraine. So this is another point that is interesting for me to learn.
So am I hearing you right if you also call for sharing good practices? Because if we invented things that work in one country, of course, what should stop us to share it, right?
Yes. Yes.
And not reinvent the wheel. Indeed, I'm pretty sure that in the countries that half of you work in, there is a lot of knowledge on sustainable water management and the link to sustainable agriculture. I'm just looking at you. You don't know what I'm looking at, but let's keep that connection indeed, because I'm pretty sure there's quite a lot of knowledge around.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
And I'm pretty sure that GIZ has many projects on wastewater management and all of that. And there has been also cooperation between the Cologne University and Jordan University, training engineers, wastewater management engineers, and so forth. I don't know, Rebecca, do you have any projects you could perhaps
yeah, I wanted
mention
to actually,
here? Yeah.
I want to jump in here and say that actually I'm unfortunately not an expert on the Lebanon portfolio, but as you also just guessed, Gabi, I assume that there will be also in the agricultural field project. So Hanan, I am pretty sure that through LinkedIn or also through me, if you want to reach out to one of the colleagues in the GIZ Lebanon portfolio, I'm pretty sure that they also do have similar activities ongoing.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Feel free to get in touch with me.
I will. Thank you.
Yes, is there anyone else who would seize this opportunity to talk and directly access this group of experts as you can? Silence. So let's move on. I think we discussed quite a lot on why the women in this audience today are instrumental in moving forward and scaling up these green businesses. How would you see, instead of fighting the system or running smarter and faster than all the guys, or even worse, copying all the male traits, how can we help each other forward? What would you need? Because I heard the word mapping it out before in one of the discussions. What would really help to actually share the knowledge that we have and make sure other women in this audience benefit from it, entrepreneurs as we are? Is there somebody who would say, okay, this is what I would need from this group, or this is what I think everybody should know or do? There is silence.
Yeah, so I'll give it a try. I believe that these kinds of initiatives are important because they allow us to discuss, to change mindsets, and to open up to each other. That's one. But the second thing that I also believe is important is role modeling, to lead by example. Just that sometimes we talk about things, but we don't really do them. So I think it's important to actually take the lead. And as soon as there is once, sometimes you look for people, but if they're not ready to change, there is you can try as much as you want, it's not going to happen. But if you there and they see you changing, it's a natural inspiration, I might say.
So this is a call for everybody to be visible. Do I get that right? Because it's really important for future generations to actually see that these women are there, right? Because
and also education.
Yeah. I have a question. Would be interesting for our Egyptian friends to see COP is now coming to Sharm el-Sheikh. I mean, these major events. So you have events in the forefront. Does that change also in terms of including women, creating more awareness? Do these major events change? I mean, we've had this in Marrakesh before. So my question would be to Egypt and to Morocco. Are these events accelerators? Yes or no?
Definitely yes. Definitely, because now all the ministers are the Minister of International Cooperation and the Minister of Planning, and they're all talking about and signing agreements with DFIs regarding the gender lens and closing the gender gap. We have roundtables all the time now about how we're going to present bankable projects and matchmaking, and it's not only for Egypt, actually, it's across Africa. And we have to take a regional perspective for that, whether it is the MENA region or the rest of Africa. The thing is that what I've, for preparing for the COP27, what we've been discussing, and I think we realize that, but we say that all the time, but there is a sense of urgency. It's a matter now of implementation. We've all attended a lot of forums, and now is the time for really acting. Vision without action is a dream. So what I can say from the roundtables that the key learnings for me is that I have to take action now. And this goes across all the departments in the bank, across all our stakeholders. How we can, as Anouk said, how can we help each other? Role modeling is very important. We have incorporated this in our financial package for women, which is called ZAT. So the first phase comprises of 5 pillars, which is Fund Me, which is access to financial packages, Make My Life Simpler, which is products adapting to women needs and being more customer-centric than product-centric, Teach Me, which is we teach them digital marketing, we teach them financial literacy, teach them all the things that they really have to know for their businesses. Connect Me, which is the network and how we have a lot of networks and for suppliers, and how can we help them with this. And Get Me Online, which is the technological transformation, digital solutions and payments. So the phase 1 of Z, which is Inner Self, this is the name of the product in Arabic, it comprises of 5 pillars. The next 2 pillars, which is phase 2, will be around Know Me. And Know Me is about what Mona said, is showcased to be a role model for other women. And the last pillar will be Protect Me. And this is introducing insurance. Of course, a green component now will be added alongside of all decision-making and targets for this. We're putting target setting for the first time in our bank, and I believe all the banking sector will be doing this very, very soon. The CBE has had non-binding principles for sustainable finance, but I believe before COP27, it will be binding. And there will be a gender lens to it, of course. So I mean that women now have to take charge of their future, and we have a lot to do, all of us. and it just needs to be structured, and we work together, as I said. So banks will not be working together. There'll be a lot of interdependencies with the ministries, with the NGOs, with the chambers of commerce, with GIZ, with all the DFIs. So that's what the key learnings that I've reached, and I hope that we all realize that there is a sense of urgency to the matter.
May I ask a question, Dr. Suzanne? Are you aware of comparable schemes in other countries? Would there be any knowledge about this?
I didn't.
It would be, because we're such a geographically spread group now. Would you know if there are comparable schemes to make finances more accessible for female entrepreneurs? Are you aware of similar schemes in different countries?
We have when we did this with the IFC, we have seen different experiments in different countries. There are a lot of other projects to be done. There are a lot of other projects, I mean, that we can, in Kenya, for example, remittances are very important. So what they do is they have this app, and women are mainly the recipients for the remittances. So on the app, they have this a credit pre-approved line, so you can use it the instant the remittance come and she is in the field. She can use this. So this is one of the things that we've seen. We've seen other experiments in other countries that there's a national strategy and there are quotas for this. So we can have quotas for our suppliers. For example, the banks buy a lot of things, and then you can have a quota for, you have to have among your suppliers a certain quota for women. There are credit cards especially that give you cash back if you buy from if you purchase something from a lady or a women-led business. There are a lot of examples all over the world. We can't do all this in one package. What we have done is the first package, and this is the first package that is for women-led businesses that has been launched in Egypt, which is that. And as I said, it comprises 5 pillars. And so we are moving. We have to be more innovative. We have to introduce new products, different channels of funding, as we said, and how we can link all this together. Yes, we've seen other experiments.
Yes, that would be very inspiring, because of course it would be silly to reinvent the wheel in every country, right?
Okay.
Yes. Are you, asking to the crowd, are you familiar with special schemes in your the region where you work, or do you think, oh, I wish we had something like Egypt is now working?
I would like to ask a question to Susan. I mean, obviously, Egypt was going through a problem, and then they partnered with the IFC, which started, as you said, making schemes. Now, I saw in your presentation that from the financial part, I mean, there was more financial inclusion recently. Do you think that this is attributed mostly to the IFC intervention? I mean, putting schemes in with banks and trying to sort of get them into implementation?
No, what the figures that I put was for December 21, so this was 2021. It was before launching this. The product was launched, or the package was launched in March 2022. So these were not really, these were on the, because the CBE was pushing the banks to be more initiative and the financial inclusion, driving financial inclusion for the past 2 years through having 6 events a year. And one of them is dedicated to women, one is dedicated to disabled, one is dedicated to youth. And we all participated in the national and the presidential project, which is Haya Karima, and Haya Karima means having a decent life. And when you go with a decent life, you mean basically it is for women. As I said, also we have the VSLA project targeting 500,000 women and this is with the National Council of Women. We have with the planning, with the Ministry of Planning, we have another, and the National Council of Women, we have another project which is called Development of the Egyptian Family. And this is, we also includes women, and it's only for women, actually. And we have another project that we're working on now, which is called the simulation. So what we do in the rural areas, that we build a booth, or we build this, it's as if it's a bank. And then after we give them a financial literacy, they just move from the teller. It's as if they're going to the bank, because they have this, they are scared. They want to have a credit loan or a card or a savings. They are afraid to go to the bank. So what we do with this simulation is near to their homes, and they go to this booth, and we just break the ice, we break the fear. Okay, this is something to the, all of these are schemes, new schemes, innovative schemes of how to reach these rural poor women and make them be engaged in the formal sector. And then we will add a green finance component to it. So I can go on and on. There are a lot of other projects.
We can hear. I wish we had the rest of the day, because I'm just absorbing like a sponge. Thank you very much, Dr. Suzanne. Rebecca, regarding the COP27, you had a question.
Not a question. I just would love to add. Fully agree with what Dr. Susan Hamdi said. That definitely the COP, let's say, increased the focus on the green transition, but also a focus on making it a just transition. And I would love to add here that I really have the feeling that gender is a dimension that's really been discussed in at least the sessions that I was able to join in the Egyptian context. There will be also a gender day at COP27. And there's a lot of discourse in the donor community around gender and green currently. The National Council for Women also is, let's say, active in creating this gender day. And in GIZ Egypt, we also formed a task force now on climate X gender, where we want to encourage a regional exchange in the MENA region with the colleagues in different energy projects to be, let's say, highlighting the subject more. And I really have to say that the COP27 really contributed to this increased focus on the subject that is highly important, definitely.
Yeah. Have you all noted this?
Yes.
Yes.
Please do.
And if I can also add, I don't remember, I think Anouk, this was your very initial question when we all came back here. You were asking if we should run faster. And I actually wanted to say or answer this, that not if you're staying in this metaphor, not really running faster, but what I think we would need is rather changing the road. And what I mean by that is a more systematic change, how we look at women in business. And that would mean providing them with the necessary care facilities for the children so that they're actually able to be active in the workforce or fund their own business, let's say. And what we have also discussed in our little workshop around a point that I brought when it comes to pitching, for example, when women pitch their businesses to get funding from the investor side, then often there's a bias towards the gender of the pitching participant, let's say. So this would also be an example where I see we need rather a system change, like how do we do things rather than training women how to run faster, better, but rather looking at how can we systematically change so that women don't need to run faster, but actually come with what they bring to the table. And that will just be, appropriate for the system that we have in place. So maybe that's also a point I wanted to.
It's about process design, right? And kind of make it the default and the norm to include women by system, by the structures, by the whole design, and not just the mindset. I think we can all agree on that. Since I am afraid time is a bit running short, Anouk, shall we perhaps have the last round, and then we would like to have your feedback. And as we are all multitasking, maybe we can do that all together, that I open now the poll questions, because we need your feedback. We ask you to briefly answer the following 5 questions. And while doing so, perhaps everybody gives a final, I don't know, golden nugget or something. So here we go. Please, do you see the poll right now? And it would be lovely to have your feedback. And while you're typing in, perhaps Anouk, one final word of each of our wonderful speakers. What are your takeaways from today's kickoff network event? Perhaps Laila, can I start with you?
Thank you, Dr. Gabi. So I think, Goldie, it's a difficult one, but I think my 2 cents is for women, we need to work hard. There's a little bit of luck as well along the way, but I think I found out that the harder I work, the luckier I got in my career in general. So I think it's important to convey this message to anyone joining newly the workforce.
Thank you, Laila. Who else is done doing their homework? Somebody from the panel, maybe Rebecca? Is there something you'd like to share?
Yeah, sure. I would say generally that, this transition into a greener economy, definitely we're expecting it to create many new jobs around the world, but also including in the MENA region. And I think we're currently really at an acceleration moment, and we need to act now to really ensure that this transition into the green economy in the region does not leave women behind. So supporting women and female-led businesses to achieve this goal is really a major task I see for the development community, and GIZ Egypt is also contributing to this goal.
Thank you very much. I'm looking at at Susan, maybe?
It's really quite hard to be doing these 2 things at the same time, picking my brain and me typing.
Multitasking, I hear.
As we are.
It's a necessity, but it's not necessarily easier.
I hear it's a myth, though.
Yes.
I believe we've all agreed that the climate crisis cannot be solved without involving women. And I think it's very obvious. And as I said, vision without action is a dream. So now is the time for implementation.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mona.
I believe also that just something, because maybe I'm a woman, I'm biased, and I believe that by nature, women were created to endure hardships, and therefore they are unstoppable. They can do anything, and women have to take charge of their future.
No choice. Mona.
Yeah, so from my side, we lost you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, perfectly.
Okay. Yeah, so from my side, I think that's we can't move on without women. That's definitely and evident. They represent 50% on the planet, so we need them to be able to respond, to answer the needs of these 50%, and also work on the structural barriers that exist today for the economic and environmental advancement of the planet. So yeah, I think and early empowerment, work on empowering to not to come get them, but to be there by themselves.
Thank you for these closing rounds. I'm looking maybe at
Dr. Siham. Dr.
Siham is
from Oman.
Yes.
Hi again. Couple of things really. I think one is to emphasize how important, at least for the ladies who have advanced in their careers, to between bracket adopt the younger ones. We talked about coaching, guiding, and I think it's really critical that we do that, because I see it in my company when I get a young lady just out of university and really naive, and when I see them like 1 year later or 2 years later, it's amazing the fulfillment that you get, and you can see that they will go out and really do amazing things. So I think we must, it's not just nice, we really must help as many young ladies and guide them to how they should go as possible. And the other thing is to emphasize on the networking. We talked about networking. Maybe I was just unlucky, but in my case, every time I go to events, I meet women and men. We have great discussions, and I really try to build relationships. I'm very easy to build relationships in general, but I find that men tend to keep the contact much longer afterwards. With women, it's great when we meet, we really get along, we hit it off, but somehow it doesn't really continue, and that networking doesn't really happen. I have much stronger, I'm always one of the boys rather than one of the girls. Would love to have actually longer relationship, work relationship, professional, where I will help the lady, she will help me. I would love to see that, because right now I see it working much better with men than with women, and we really need to help each other on that.
Learn.
Agree more. Couldn't agree more.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Okay, Anouk, shall we close, because all of the wonderful ladies and men need to go?
Maybe I will just say a few final
please.
words. Gabi and Anouk. Well, I would like to thank everyone for attending today's event, and thank you, Gabi, for organizing it and inviting us from GGF Technical Assistance Facilities perspective. Thank you, Anouk, very much for moderating, and dear guests, Leila, Susan, Mona, and Rebecca, thank you for your input. This is, as I said, the first time that we at GGF TAF are engaging in such a networking event. Of course, we have a small group of very diverse participants today, and therefore, understandably, getting sometimes into the very nitty-gritty is very challenging at these events. But I believe that today's event was very good for meeting each other. I hope that everybody learned something new today, maybe about some new sort of solutions to the access to finance, professional development, green entrepreneurship, burning questions that they had coming into today's topic. I really wish everybody to continue, asking these questions, engage with each other through the network that was created as part of this meeting today. And I am sure that we have more viewers at home who are tuning in, remotely listening to us. And thank you again, everyone. And I'm hoping to sort of scale up the discussions that we started during today's meeting into the future.
Thank you so much, Miriam, for the wonderful final words. Yes, it's been an amazing kickoff of this virtual network event series. Thank you so much. We are truly indebted to Anouk, wonderful moderator, wonderful speakers, wonderful audience, and let's continue. And this is going to be continued. We will keep you updated. And as for now, for me, it was both a call for action and a call to continue. So thank you so much for joining us, and let's stay connected, stay safe, stay well, and stay green. Thank you so much, and hopefully see you very soon again. We'll keep you updated. Thank you for a lovely evening.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.